Hey guys, coming at you today from Finch Park. Out here doing an easy run, and it's mid-January. Temperatures in upper 50s. It's awesome out here. Great day to come running. A little wet, it's been raining, but otherwise we've had a very warm January. It's been great. And today I'm doing a easy run, and I thought it would be a good time to talk about what I've experienced and observed with MAF training versus RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. If you're unfamiliar with the MAF scale, it stands for maximum aerobic function, and you take 180 minus your age as a baseline, and then you either add or subtract this for a heart rate, and you either add or subtract 5 beats a minute, or depending on your fitness level, your injury status or sickness. And for me, that would be 180 minus 61 gives me a 119, and then I add 5 because I've been doing pretty well fitness wise. So 124, I round up to 125, and that would be my MAF pace. And I've done that for I guess going on almost 5 months now, and I will say it feels good energy wise. I haven't had injuries, but it is kind of, for me, 125 is just a little bit too slow. And what I mean by that is, I think everybody kind of has a pace where they're comfortable and it feels good. And 125 is, for me, it feels artificially slow. And I feel like I'm pounding. The RPE scale, on the other hand, is rate of perceived exertion. And that, I think the official scale runs from 6 to 15 or something, but the scale I use would be a 1 to 10 scale. 1 being basically you're sitting on the couch, 10 being all out 100% sprint. And I guess I've really always trained that way, and maybe I was probably training too hard, maybe a 5, 6 most days when I was younger, but now I kind of do it on a 2 to 3, which is easy. And what I find when I do that, which is what I'm doing today, is that my heart rate tends to be about 130, between 130 and 135, which is a bit higher than MAF. But for me, it feels good and I enjoy it. But ultimately, I don't know which one is better. Of course, no formula is perfect. Everybody's different. Everybody's got a different max heart rate, different aerobic threshold. And I think the MAF formula does really well, at least for a baseline starting point. I think maybe if you're younger, you get a little bit of higher heart rate. It helps. And I know there are some special considerations for it. If you're over 65, maybe 10 beats a minute. But ultimately, I think it works well. It has worked well. Evidence was my New Year's Eve race, where I was able to hold a mid 160 heart rate the whole race, pretty much. So felt really good about that, and I've enjoyed doing it. And then RPE, I've kind of switched to a little bit more lately, and trying to see how that's going to go. Trail running is always more difficult because your heart rate's up and down, up and down, up and down, but it's still maintain that lower heart rate has kept me injury free. And I believe that as you get older, that's the ultimate test of any training plan, is to keep you injury free. Because if you're injured, you just can't train. And that definitely, as you get older, is the key, is staying uninjured so you can be consistent. I think both methods definitely have their advantages and drawbacks. And I would say for me, the biggest drawback on the MAF has been kind of running like this on the trails and keeping my heart rate steady. It's just really hard when it's hilly to keep it under that MAF pace. You're walking, you're running, you're walking, you're running, and it is a bit frustrating. And on the RPE scale, its main drawback, I think, it's how subjective it is. You just feel bad some days, and so you feel like you're running way harder than you are. And then days when you're feeling good, you're running what feels like easy, and look at your heart rate, it's way up there. But ultimately, I think you should try both for at least a couple of months at a time. Don't do one for a week and expect results. Definitely do them for a couple of months at a time. And I would say, if you're a new runner, you probably are better off with a MAF, just because if you're not used to running, you're kind of going to be hurting all the time, and it's going to feel not good. And in that case, you're better off just kind of strictly going with heart rate. But I believe as you gain experience, you probably can have both the RPE and the MAF, kind of mix them up and just see which one works for you. And again, ultimately, it's about making progress and staying injury free. And that's always the name of the fitness game. Of course, everything I've talked about today really pertains to what I've done running. I have done some MAF mountain biking, and it works really well on that, but my heart rates are just different mountain biking, and I don't really have a good baseline because I never in the past trained at all with a heart rate monitor on the bike, and it's hard to gauge. I don't know, it's just hard to gauge how I feel. So for me, I think the MAF is working pretty good on the bike. I can come out here and ride multiple laps and still feel pretty good, where when I'm riding on RPE, I tend to maybe go a little too hard, and that ultimately hurts my back, and that's never good. So bottom line, just give both of these a try, see which one works for you, kind of stick with what works, and don't be afraid to change it up. Don't be afraid to get out here. You're not going to hurt anything if you don't do it exactly right, but get out, see what works, and yeah, we'll see you on the trails. Thanks for watching.